Ah yes, Goldsrc. You know, that one engine that's a primary source of gold for Valve. Ah, get it? Made in 1998 when Valve just liquefied the Quake engine so hard that it could do skeletal animations. In 1998. Indeed, it was an engine that was ahead of its time. So advanced that, to this day, you still can't even load up 2 games that run on Goldsrc, because otherwise your computer will straight up explode for having to process the extreme amount of detail and complex environments that Goldsrc can produce. Truly a masterpiece. Now, I guarantee a couple of you will think that Goldsrc was only used to make Half-Life 1 and Counter-Strike 1.6. Well, what if I tell you that you're wrong? It was actually used to make quite a few games. What I'm gonna do is look back at all the games that run on Goldsrc. I'm specifically going to look at the games that have licensed the Goldsrc engine, not just used it, because there are about a million mods that use Goldsrc, and this video would be 50 hours long if I looked at them as well. I'm gonna look at the games listed on the Wikipedia page for Goldsrc, because it literally lists them all. And don't worry, this list is pretty much the same as the one from the Half-Life fandom and Combine Over wiki page. So hopefully I won't be offending some diehard fans that are ready to cancel me with the press of a button. So let's go from the oldest to the newest. First, Half-Life 1, made in 1998. Okay, I don't really have to explain this one at all, but I'll give you the 20-second overview. Half-Life, the game where every guard and scientist looks the same, and the game where one of the guards owes you a beer that you never get.
Hey, catch me later, I'll buy you a beer.
You start at work and cause an alien invasion in the first 10 minutes. So then you shoot your way through the smaller zombies and aliens, then go to the aliens world and shoot the big boy alien that was bringing in the smaller ones. You finish him off with a clean headshot and explodes in front of you. As a reward, this dude offers you a job that if you accept, leaves you in the middle of literal nowhere, and if you refuse, lets you die. Even better. And despite this game being made 24 years ago, there's still an average of 400 people a day playing it. Nice. Then, Sven Co-op, which I also made a video on, comparing it to Half-Life. This started as a Half-Life mod that let you play the Half-Life story cooperatively, hence the name. It stayed as a mod for a long time, but then was released on Steam when the team got a license to Goldsrc. But despite it being a mod, you don't need Half-Life to play it. So if you have $0, you can experience Half-Life like this. There's not much to say about it, you can just play Half-Life with your boys. Only big difference is a slightly more updated engine because the team actually keeps updating it, and the weapons look different. It adds new ones as well that I said were made in 8K Ultra HD. They added other ones as well, and some pay-to-win ones as well. Maps are combined, giving you less loading screens, and because it's co-op, the enemies are slightly stronger, so good luck if you're going solo. Next is Team Fortress Classic. Yes, the game that preceded Team Fortress 2 by about 8 years. But unlike Team Fortress 2, this ain't cartoonish and filled with 10 million things that you have to buy. And technically this is a mod for Half-Life 1, because the folder for it is in the Half-Life folder. But you don't need Half-Life to play this, so I don't know. But because it's technically a mod, it has the Half-Life look and feel, like in the movement, textures, how old it is, and how active it is. Some of the weapons are literally just Half-Life weapons. There's the shotgun, the pistol, and even the crowbar. It has the same class-based system that got transferred to TF2, same red and blue team, and even the exact same classes, except the classes this time look more realistic compared to this. There's plenty of maps, but the maps are a bit simple, like 2-4B looking real boxy. That's alright, it's Goldsrc after all. TFC does work a bit differently, as you can imagine. You know the abilities that the classes have? Yeah, there's no items for that. Like for example, for the spy, you have to right-click to bring up a menu, where you choose if you want to disguise as an enemy or a friendly. You can even fake your own death to surprise someone, which is a really cool mechanic. This right-click menu also lets you change teams or classes, message, call for a medic, or even discard ammo for some reason. I don't know why you'd want to. It's also kinda dead. Then, Half-Life Opposing Force, which I also already made a video on. So here's another 20-second overview. This game was made by Gearbox Software in 1999. You play as Adrian Shepard, a soldier who failed his mission within 10 minutes. So you try to escape, which at first doesn't work, because this is a video game. But you're determined, so you still continue to try to escape. So just like Ford and Greenman, you shoot your way through some smaller aliens before facing off against the bigger alien. Although it wasn't as big as the other one, but oh well. Along the way you shoot some ninja-looking people, and you also catch a glimpse of the free man jumping into a portal. If you feel rebellious, or you really want to accomplish your original mission, you can jump in after him and finally kill him. Even if it means creating a paradox, who cares? This game is basically just more Half-Life. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? Ricochet came out in 2000, but unfortunately is literally dead. Like, I'm talking 0 players total. This is more or less like a fun party game that's relatively easy to get the hang of. You're in an arena that's in, I don't know where the fuck. The arena is comprised of these small platforms with arrows on them. If you step on the arrows, you fly to another platform, but there's no jumping. And don't fall off, cause otherwise... And since this is a Goldsrc game, you can airstrafe to a different platform if you want the 0 people on the server to know that you're an expert at this. You shoot these discs that can knock people off, but you can only shoot 3, and you have to wait until your discs disappear before you can shoot more. You can also right-click, which uses all 3 of your shots to make a super shot, I guess. It plays this epic sound, so you know it's good, right? There's also barriers where your blades can ricochet off. See, that's why this game is called that. And there's also some power-ups, like free shots, which freezes people, fast shots, which lets you shoot more blades faster, triple shot, which makes you shoot 3 blades, or power shots, which does more knockback, I suppose. I don't know, I can't really find out. But that's literally it. That's the whole game. Good luck playing it though. Now Counter-Strike, like the original one. It's very different from Global Offensive. It started as another mod for Half-Life. Are you starting to see a trend? You play as either terrorists or counter-terrorists, and for some reason, the counter-terrorists have to buy guns with their own money. Good job, unnamed agency. Counter-Strike plays very differently from Half-Life. Movement is really different. Guns now have spray patterns, and movement and accuracy. The bomb looks like a brick, and huge crosshairs so you don't even know where your shots are gonna go. There's a big variety of weapons, but you'll only be seeing the AK, M4, Deagle, or the AWP. Because again, this is Counter-Strike. You also have to buy ammo, because otherwise just buying a weapon gives you only 1 clip, which I always forget to do. Also, this game has more players than Counter-Strike Source, which I guess is probably because of nostalgia. And maybe it's because I'm more used to Counter-Strike on the Source engine, but I absolutely suck at this game. Like, I can easily get 2 kills, 50 deaths, by trying to do the opposite. That's no problem for me. For some reason, there's not many English servers. There's lots of Spanish, and Russian, of course, you can't forget that. Gunman Chronicles is another Half-Life mod. Actually, first it was a Quake mod, and then they switched it to Quake 2, and then they switched it again to Half-Life, and then it got released as its own game. But I've never played it, so I don't know what it's about. So give me a second. Okay, I did a little bit of research, so I think I might have an idea. So in the game, you play as this dude that's part of the Gunman. You go to this planet, and a lot of people get stranded, but you escape. Some years later, you go back to the planet to investigate something, but now you instead have to take out this dude who is one of the people that got stranded, and he's a snowflake, I guess, because he wants to kill everyone that got him stranded, making him villain number 420. As you can probably tell, this game is set in the future. Like, far future. The level design is pretty nice, custom weapons, custom enemies, really good mod. Remember, made in Goldsrc by the way. Deathmatch Classic is just Valve's recreation of Quake, just 5 years more modern instead. Just like Quake, there's a jumping sound, because you gotta have that. The weapons are the exact same. They almost even look the same, except instead of an axe like in Quake, you have the crowbar, because this is a Valve game. I think they also ported some of the maps from Quake. So it truly is Quake and Goldsrc. Oh, did I also mention that this game is just as dead as Ricochet? Yep, also 0 players. So enjoy running around the map looking at the wonderful geometry of 2001. Sadly you can't jump into the void. Blue Shift I already made a video on again. It's Half-Life from the perspective of Barney Calhoun instead. You try to escape Black Mesa by finding a scientist, going to Zen because you have guns of course, and you actually escape. Unlike Gordon and Adrian who are stalked by G-Man, actually, I don't think you see G-Man at all during Blue Shift. So, sorry Barney, you're not important. It doesn't have the same features as Opposing Force, like climbable ropes, which is fine because those ropes are weird sometimes. And there's no final boss, and it's not as long, but it's still fun. At least the game adds some contrast to the orange and green, finally finishing the RGB color space. Decay is yet another expansion pack for Half-Life that kinda got forgotten. Most importantly, this one was made for the PlayStation 2. But there is a PC port, so I'd rather play that because, yeah, no. In Decay, you play as Gina and Colette. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that Decay is co-op, just like Sven co-op. Except it's not at all like Sven co-op, and only 2 people can play, not 30. However, because Decay is co-op, yeah, I can't really play it, so I don't know what the heck it's about. All I know is that a disaster happens, of course, except now it's from the perspective of Gina and Colette. And this might be only on the PC port, but I can't even load in other maps to see what it's about, because if I try, the game jabates you and tells you that you have to complete them in order. So the game is self-aware. That ain't good. Now this next one is weird. All Goldsrc games have been Half-Life derivatives, Counter-Strike, and some other Team Fortress type games. But in 2002, Eurocom, and a bunch of others apparently, Gearbox included, made James Bond 007 Nightfire. Yes, this is a Goldsrc game surprisingly. This is unlike any other Valve type game, so this probably got undershadowed by everything else. I haven't played the entire game, so I don't know what the story is, but you can probably expect some sci-fi BS because this is a James Bond game after all. Yep, sure can. And surprisingly, this game still holds the Goldsrc movement feeling, and the look. You can add a silencer to your pistol, like that one gun in Team Fortress, and it even has the same looking sniper scope like in Counter-Strike. This also has multiplayer, which I can reasonably guess is dead, and this took me forever to figure out how to download from a non-secure website. Perfect. Day of Defeat, which I also made a video on. It's another class-based game, this time even more realistic than Team Fortress. Set in World War II, you play as the Axis and Allies, and you have to capture all the points to win, just like in Battlefield. You can play as something boring like a rifleman, or something cooler like a stormtrooper, which unintentionally gives you garbage aim because you have to play the part and not cause a paradox. Sprinting is pointless, you can only sprint for 2 microseconds, and don't give me any automatic weapon because I'll be at the bottom of the scoreboard. As you can probably guess by most of these Goldsrc games, this one is also slightly dead, but not completely. Sorry Deathmatch Classic, you will not be remembered. Some servers do have bots, so you have that going for you. Condition Zero is that one Counter-Strike game that everyone ignored because it was released at the worst possible time, right before Counter-Strike Source. You can think of it as a slightly updated Counter-Strike 1.6. It includes all the normal 1.6 maps, but also new versions of some maps designed for Condition Zero. The ones for Condition Zero look a bit cleaner in my opinion, and sometimes very different. Like Dust 2 looks very different. The guns also look different, they're a bit higher quality I think, and the knife holding position is completely different, which I don't like for some reason. And remember when I said that it was kind of ignored? Yeah, not many people are playing it, which is sad because this game probably had some potential. But that's no problem because Condition Zero has single player. Yeah, you heard me right. Although there's no story, it's just normal Counter-Strike games with bots instead, and you just have to complete challenges. Yes, I know deleted scenes exists, but that's different. You could even choose what bots you want with points you earn, and they help you in your tour of duty. Good stuff. Neo, the arcade Japanese Counter-Strike. I don't know, clearly someone wanted it. I've heard it uses a slightly modified Goldsrc, but it's still just like Counter-Strike 1.6 in its mechanics. Clearly. This is also sci-fi from the way some of the player models look, and anime themed because this is Japan we're talking about. But even though the player models are from the year 4000, they still don't have any crazy energy weapons. They instead still use generic Counter-Strike weapons that seem to have their models and animations ripped straight from Counter-Strike stores. So I don't know where their budget went to. There's no terrorists and counter-terrorists. Instead the teams are the CSF, or Cosmopolitan Special Forces, and Neo, which is just Neo. I don't know if this is true, but the fandom page says it had a matchmaking and elo system 7 years before Global Offensive was made, so I guess these guys were the real innovation. Counter-Strike Online was made by Valve and Nexon, and it's essentially just free-to-play Counter-Strike. Even their website says so. There's a few versions. There's a Taiwan version, China version, an Indonesian/Malaysian/Singapore version, and a Japanese version, so this was probably the competitor to Counter-Strike Neo. I can't play it though because the Chinese version asks for an ID that I don't have. The Taiwan version sends you a bogus verification email. The sign-up page for the Indonesian version doesn't exist, I guess. And the Japanese version says they shut down in 2019. So yeah, the download links for the different pages led to nowhere as well, except for Taiwan. So I downloaded it and installed it. Not on my actual computer, I did it in a VM because I don't want 30 million potential viruses. And this is the launcher. So it's immediately clear that there's no way I'm going to play this. I wonder why. These buttons are useless by the way. They send you to either login pages or ads, I guess. Remember, this is Counter-Strike we're talking about. So since I can't show you, I don't know how the game looked. All there is are some pictures of what looks to be a buy menu. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Cry of Fear started as a Half-Life mod, but just like 7 Co-op, the team behind it got a license to the Goldsrc engine and released it on Steam as its own game. When you first play this game, it looks nothing like Goldsrc. It looks like it was made in Source instead. But nope, it wasn't. This game looks amazing for a Goldsrc game, which could probably explain the 4 years it took to make. Now, I'm not going to explain the whole story, because that'll take an hour, and I don't want to spoil it for the one person who still hasn't played it. And that person just so happens to be me, so I couldn't even tell you the story. You play as Simon Henriksen, who at the very start gets wrecked by a car. Guess that driver had one too many drinks. You then wake up in a dark alley, you know, like you normally do. Your whole objective through the game is to get home, and that's all I know. So you remember Counter-Strike Online? Well, Nexon most likely shut that down, so they made Counter-Strike Nexon Studio, which is on Steam. Now, I faintly remember it being called Counter-Strike Nexon Zombies when I played this like 4 or 5 years ago, but now it's this. Launching the game brings you to the start menu, which is in this square resolution that you can't change. Only when you get into a game does it go to a normal resolution. And surprisingly, there are still some players. The first game I joined was a gun game type mode, and I don't know if it's just this lobby, but the bots would talk non-stop.
CT spawn. All clear. Report in, team. Middle. Too many. Marked. They're all over the place.
What was even better was my amazing ping, because I'm probably connecting to a server in North Korea. In general though, this game is basically just Counter-Strike 1.6, but they throw in 200 extra things, like player models, maps, and weapons. It has the normal Counter-Strike weapons, but also some crazy ones, like what is this? What is that? I also checked out zombie mode, which is apparently recommended, and that was exactly what you'd expect based on what I just told you. So that stops there. That's also where new Goldsrc games stop, because after 2014, I doubt a normal studio would want to use an engine from what appears to be the Stone Age. And as a casual new player, I wouldn't want to experience this, and especially this. Even though I got this list from these websites, I'm sure there's some Goldsrc game that no one knows about that released 5 seconds before this video did. Like I said, Goldsrc is old, so there's likely not going to be any new games on it. But Source, however, is newer, and is still quite good to this day. I just don't know if I want to do the history of that because... oh no. But anyways, bye.